Can one school truly meet the needs of a student destined for Harvard, a student headed for a welding certification, and a student who dreams of performing on Broadway all at the same time? Well, that question used to stop me cold. You see, early in my career as an educator, I attended a parent meeting that I have never forgotten. A mother across the table from me was visibly torn. You see, her daughter, bright, curious, and artistically gifted, was being steered toward a private preparatory academy by well-meaning relatives. They said, "The public school can't give her everything she needs," the mother told me, eyes tired and uncertain. They said, "She'll fall through the cracks." Well, I understood the fear. What parent wouldn't? But what I also understood, because I had walked those hallways, reviewed those course catalogs, and watched those students graduate and soar, was that the picture being painted of public education was profoundly incomplete. The assumption that traditional public schools offer a narrow, one-size-fits-all education is one of the most persistent and damaging narratives in American education. And it is simply not true. Here is what is true. The academic menu available inside a well-resourced traditional public school is among the most expansive and responsive offerings in all of K-12 education. So I want to talk about the trap that we as educators fall into. You see, when educators and administrators fail to communicate the breadth of what their schools offer, families fill the silence with assumptions. And those assumptions are costing students opportunities. The error is not usually in the doing. Most public schools are doing extraordinary work. The error is in the telling. Central office teams and building leaders often focus only on compliance metrics, graduation rates, and test scores when speaking with the public. In doing so, they leave the richest parts of the story untold. And there is a deeper issue at play. You see, when school leaders think about their academic programs, they sometimes organize them in silos. The college-bound track over here, the career and technical track over there, and the arts tucked into a wing that gets its budget cut first. That internal fragmentation becomes external confusion. Families see division rather than diversity. They see limitation rather than a landscape of possibility. So the best way to think about this, and I believe the right way to lead schools, is to see every program not as a separate offering for a separate type of student, but as a thread in a single, rich academic tapestry. One that is woven precisely because students are different from one another and deserve a school that honors that difference. So what does the academic menu actually look like? Well, I'm so glad you asked. Think about what is already happening in public schools across this country. Advanced placement courses allow students to earn college credit before they ever set foot on a university campus, saving families thousands of dollars and giving students an academic edge. Dual enrollment partnerships with community colleges and universities extend that opportunity even further, allowing high schoolers to graduate with a meaningful head start on a degree or possibly an associate degree. Meanwhile, career and technical education, also known as CTE, these programs are not what they were a generation ago. Today's CTE pathways are industry aligned, credential bearing, and increasingly tied to high wage, high demand fields, including healthcare and information technology, as well as manufacturing, agriculture, and construction. The U.S. Department of Education has made clear that CTE participation is associated with higher graduation rates and stronger post-secondary outcomes, particularly for students who enter the workforce directly after high school. Then there are the arts, not as an extracurricular decoration, but as legitimate academic disciplines. Research on arts integration in public schools, including work published by the National Endowment for the Arts, consistently shows connections between sustained arts instruction and academic engagement, critical thinking, and social emotional resilience. So, a student in a public school orchestra is not just learning to play an instrument. She is learning discipline, collaboration, the patience of practice, and the joy of collective excellence. STEM programs, many supported through partnerships with local industries and higher education institutions, give students access to project-based learning, robotics competitions, coding courses, and scientific inquiry at levels that rival those of any private school offering. And English language learning supports within traditional public schools serve one of the most important equity imperatives in American education, ensuring that students from linguistically diverse backgrounds are not left behind, but are actively welcomed into the full range of academic life. So I often think about that mother. I return to that story of that mother and her artistically gifted daughter because it has shaped how I believe we must lead. You see, that conversation could have gone very differently if our school had told its story more boldly. The evidence was already in our hands. A dance elective feeding directly into a state-recognized fine arts pathway. A dual enrollment option allowing her daughter to earn college art history credit while still in high school. And an AP studio art course boasting a 90% passing rate on the national exam. Had we laid these opportunities before her with clarity and confidence, well, the conversation might have taken an entirely different direction. What would it have meant for her and for her daughter if we had led with what we were already doing and what we already had to offer? She might have felt what the best public schools actually are. Not a compromise, but a calling. As Howard Gardner, the developmental psychologist whose theory of multiple intelligences transformed educational thinking, once put it, the biggest mistake of past centuries in teaching has been to treat all children as if they were variants of the same individual. Well, traditional public schools at their best are the institutional answer to that mistake. They are built to hold the full range of human potential and meet every student where they are. So my challenge for leaders like you, well, here's my challenge. It is a question I want to leave you with. Are you telling your community the full story of what your schools offer? Because if families in your district are considering alternatives, not because your programs are inferior, but because your programs are invisible, that is a leadership problem you have the power to solve. So start by auditing the narrative, not just the numbers. Walk your academic menu with fresh eyes. Catalog the breadth of what your schools offer and find every legitimate platform, community meetings, social media, school board presentations, parent nights, to say it clearly and compellingly. The students who need that broad and balanced academic menu most are often the ones whose families are least aware it exists. Your voice, your leadership, and your commitment to telling the full story are what will bridge that gap. The menu is remarkable. Now, let's make sure every family gets to see it.